What's up, y'all? We're back with another design critique. I've had a bunch of people sending me stuff in. Let's critique some of your designs. So let me just say right off the bat that this critique thing might be a thing that ends up moving to Patreon as far as like critique videos go, because I've had a lot of people ask for them and they can take a lot of time and a lot of effort to make. So that might be an eventual thing. You can let me know in the comments if you are interested or disinterested in that. But anyway, let's start off with Brycefeldmeyer, and his first graphic looks pretty darn good. It's a composite graphic of Messi sitting in what looks like his house with a Christmas tree, Christmas presents, bunch of photos of him, and a bunch of trophies. I mean, this looks pretty good. It's a composite graphic, so it's a little bit different of a critique, but I would say like the lighting looks pretty good. There's not much specific I can get into about like critiques I would make. Like, you know, you can always make the lighting or blending in a composite better. Just ask Benny Productions. You know, he spends like 3 hours on one of his edits, but then he has a video where he spent like 24 hours on one of his edits. And you know, the more time you put into something, the more you see little things you can tweak and make better. But this looks really good. You know, there's not a lot to critique about it right off the bat. Honestly, I may just let this one go as is. Good job. This one is a little bit cleaner of a graphic, and again, not much to critique about it, but I will try and give it a little bit. So I love the simplicity of it. I love the minimal use of, or the minimal changes in color. It's pretty much just a spectrum of like red and black and white. So that's easy. I love the goat shadow, and it just works because he's got 2 feet on the ground and you have kind of like this extension of the goat shadow. So that just works really well. I think the left side could be like made a little bit cleaner. It's kind of like blurred out a little bit. Kind of expanded out maybe more than it needs to be. And then his foot shadow looks like there's a separate ellipse for his foot, and then the start of the goat shadow, which is something like I would do too, but you know, just one of those things you can always improve on. Maybe like fading the goat and blurring the goat as it gets a little bit closer or a little bit further away. So like up here would be like a lot lighter, or a little lighter and a little more blurry. And I think you may have tried to do that a little bit, but you know, that could always be better too. I think the one thing that sticks out that I would definitely change is just the words down here are pretty hard to read because they're white text on basically just a really light background. So this is very readable. The goat, this other text, you know, I would have just made it like black or something probably. You know, not everything needs to be readable, but most of the time you're going to want it to be a little easier to read than this is. The other thing you could do, and like, you know, people have told me this, and sometimes it's just not what I'm going for. So like, just depends on the look you're going for, but maybe adding a little more depth with like shadows between the players. And you may have done that a little bit in some of these areas, but it looks like in some you could maybe use a little more, like between this cutout of Tom and this back cutout of Tom. I like that you have a helmetless picture of him. I love using like a up close detailed shot of the player's face, which this one's kind of far away. Like, I feel like you could do without this photo. I almost wish this one was like a helmetless photo so you could really see his face really well, and it's just big and detailed. And then you could kind of extend this up and not even need this other photo. Kind of almost looks like a little bit thrown in. But, you know, first glance, I like it. Looks good to me. So moving on, this graphic has a lot going on. I think my first thought is like, it could be a little more contrasty. Kind of just looks like everything is kind of pink and purple, and that's like the problem you can run into when you're trying to blend like the subjects into their background, which the background is very like pinkish and purplish, and you want to have his skin tones kind of match that, but it almost just looks like everything is just kind of like one massive like layer that's just pink and purple everywhere. So I feel like these cutouts could be separated
from the background as far as like their color goes by just a little bit. Like you can blend them in still, but it's just almost like because of the color on them and because of just how much is going on, it's like kind of just a lot. So I would maybe have just like separated them from the background a little bit as far as their color goes and like made them look more like skin tone, like realistic skin tones. You know, maybe found a different way to put the text in there because I like it, but it's a lot with like that, the text, the logo, and this tower. Like it kind of just looks like you're trying to fill up a bunch of space, which I know it's like not necessarily the case because like I like the clock tower, I like the words behind him, love this stadium shot, but like and I don't know, I feel like you can make the logo smaller and just put it, you know, up here or something, but I really feel like it could just be the stadium, these 3 cutouts, and that's all you need. And then if you want to put like some text like up here in the corner, you could do that, or maybe find a way to put like this clock tower like in kind of in with the cutouts instead of it being like its own separate entity. That way you have like a good amount of space, like dead space to the outside, because right now there's just like no space anywhere, there's just stuff everywhere. So I like it, it looks cool. I think it's just a little bit cluttered and could have been blended like a little bit better in a more realistic way, which is hard to do. I mean, I've made the same mistake on a graphic that I sent into a critique for Ethan J Design. I made the same mistake and like everything turned out just super glowy and green.
At number 8, we have GStar Design. Man, the creativity on this is next level. This definitely scores super high in the creative and uniqueness field, but there is some lighting issues, like underneath the pumpkin head, it's too bright, it needs to be just a little bit darker.
But you live and learn. This one I love. Also, I don't know, sometimes I screenshot things from Instagram. Like if you guys send me the actual photo, then I'll just download it, but when you send me the like link to the photo, I just screenshot it. So I don't know if all these turned out right, but this photo or this graphic is really good. I love the composition, everything works really well. Love that lens flare you put right there. I think you put right there and right there. Those work really well. Looks very blended in. I mean, all the cutouts look great to me. Maybe you could use like some shading, you know, on him and then behind him to separate these 2 cutouts, and then him from the background. Same over here. I kind of like what you did. It looks like you kind of added in some background color onto him right here to make him look like he's faded into the background. Shadows look pretty good, you know, nothing to complain about. This guy kind of looks like he's just thrown in because you're trying to balance out that this guy's in there now that I'm looking at it. So maybe like you don't even really need this guy because he almost looks thrown in too now that I look at it. So like maybe you don't even need this dude or this dude, and if you do, I don't know, I would like put him back here, you know, kind of in the same place as this guy, like this one is. I like Ugga being up here. The only thing that's like I don't love is the fact that the TCU mascot is, or the Hypnotoad or whatever they call it, is like a cartoon version. So like everything else is real, and then you just have like a cartoon toad. I almost would have just done like a horned frog, or I don't even know if that's a real thing, but like just a purple frog like photoshopped in here or something like that, because it's kind of just like one cartoon thing thrown in. So I don't know, I maybe would have just found a frog and made it purple and put it in there. That's my critiques for that. So again, I love like most of the composition. This guy's a little too close to the edge and looks like he's kind of thrown in. Same for this guy. I mean, I would maybe like move them both a little bit in and put him like back here like this dude is. But yeah, so that's it for that. Thank you, Bryce, for sending that in. So next we have Thompson Graphics, and he sent me this Stranger Things themed graphic, which I love. I mean, it's just super cool. You have like the big monster thing in the background. Love that. Works well. I think like the composite is like, you know, like I said, can always be like worked on for longer and done better and blended like better and that sort of thing. But, you know, first glance, love it. Looks cool. You know, everything really works. I feel like the cutouts work well. I don't know if they're, maybe I would have liked to like had a higher quality cutout. I understand the shadows as well, but in this instance, it's kind of like the light is coming from in front of them. So I don't know if they need the shadow extensions. I know it looks like cool. It makes sense for like the vibe you're going for, but I don't necessarily know if you need that for this, just because like the light source seems to be over here, so their shadows would be behind them. The logos and words and stuff is probably a little bit too close to the edge, like, or maybe, you know, I would put this, like some stuff, like for my app graphics, I have like little logos and tags that I put in the corners every time that are not like super important. It's just to say like, this is an app state graphic. So I understand that. So if you had this logo down here like this, I would maybe give it a little more space, put this one in the bottom corner and give it a little more space. And then I'd put the date and the name, or the date and the time, like probably centered or like up here or something, to make it, you know, a little bit less like it's just kind of thrown in there and more like it's like an important piece of the graphic, or just not have it in there at all and it just be more of like a cool themed like graphic, like promotional graphic. But I mean, yeah, everything looks good. I feel like it's like off centered, which kind of hurts me. Like I wish I wish all of this was centered up. So I don't love that messes with me, but you know, it's fine. And then the last thing is like the 1 week, I feel like could be a little bit better of a glow. I know the Stranger Things glow is like a specific kind and I'd have to look at it to make sure, but I feel like your text here needs to be brighter and the glow coming off needs to be like this orangey red color that you're using. So overall, really cool, looks cool and is very creative. Like I like what you did here with the sign, little details, fireworks. Cool stuff, but just a few minor tweaks. So thank you D Thompson Graphics for sending that in. Now we have Cooper Comstock again, and he sent in some stuff that I've seen him post recently, and it looks pretty good. If this is a jersey swap, I'd say it's a pretty good jersey swap. You know, there's definitely some details you could work on. Like I think I see some places where you could add some shading under this flap, and kind of looks kind of weird coming down onto the pants, but you know, not too bad. Like overall, I think it's blended pretty well. I would put a little more, it looks like you put this guy in here, and I would put a little more blur on him because he kind of still has like a hard edge in some places, and I feel like it might look a little bit better if it was like a little bit softer, because he looks blurred, but like I feel like the edges of him should be a little softer. But yeah, I like the logo placement and things like that. His name, that looks good. Overall, like the jersey swap and like placement of the athletes looks fairly realistic. I would just work on like adding some shading, kind of like blending, making sure the colors match well, which they do pretty well. This looks like a little more yellow than like some of this. Maybe add some shading under his helmet, underneath here on top of like his jersey and stuff. Kind of looks like his head is a separate piece, his jersey and arms are one piece, and then his pants are another piece. Another thing that could help that is like there's a little bit of like a white outline or like a crispy outline around him. And that's not always gonna be perfect, but something you can improve on, just trimming that off. For this one, looks pretty good. I would say, again, this is like a recruiting graphic, so it's kind of just like your own taste, but maybe something I would do is like, so this cloud looks like it doesn't fit in as well with the rest of the background and cloud, so they're kind of like basically all white and blue. This one's got like some grays and some like almost looks a little more yellowy, so maybe work with like the white balance to change that cloud to look like these clouds. So I think the way to do that would be to lift up the blacks or the darkest areas in this cloud, and then change the color balance a little more towards blue, maybe. You know, this is just all stuff you have to like try. And so I mean, that's not perfect, but something like that, because the other way it looked a little bit too like contrasty and stuff from the other clouds. So mess around with that, kind of make sure it's like blended well. Everything else looks pretty good, pretty simple stuff. Yeah, there's not too much to critique about this graphic, so well done. Okay, here we have another similar one to one we've looked at before. I like what you've done here. Maybe it's like you have some broken off pieces, so I would maybe like use a dissolve brush or like a debris brush and brush away some of the platform itself. So it's like you've added debris falling off, but now you need to go in and like brush away like some debris particles from the actual platform to make it like a little more realistic. And that's another thing that I've done in the past where I did one part of it and then I didn't do the other part, and so it looks like halfway there, but then when you brush away some debris particles from the platform, it'll look even more realistic. Maybe adding shadows to their feet or under their feet would have helped. And looks like they have drop shadows, which is not bad. I might have faded those out a little more and given the same thing to this platform, because it's like the platform shadows on the ground are way down here, but theirs is like behind them. So maybe just make that consistent. The text is all right. I don't love like the stroke and kind of like low opacity text thing. You know, that's a taste thing as well, but I feel like that's something that's kind of like more so out of style. So like anything can be used and like used in the right way, but I think a lot of times and a lot of things are just kind of like not the thing anymore to do. So I don't know, I might just change that to solid text behind them. Maybe make it a little bit smaller. But other than that, looks pretty good. This one I love. I love the blur on it. You like faded it underwater to make it look like it's underwater. You know, love everything that's going on down here. I think that looks pretty realistic. Maybe the top of the water, even the bubbles. I like the bubbles detail you added. The top of the water could maybe be a little bit more realistic, maybe adding like some splash effects coming off of it or something. And I think you did a little bit, I guess, but maybe working on that a little more to like blend it in. I mean, I really like how you did this, like the separation, it looks pretty cool. And then I don't know if I would like add this back like under, like right here in this space. I feel like you would probably still be able to see some of it and kind of like in this sort of view right here. And then the seagulls just kind of look like lower quality. They look all right. They don't look super blended. Same thing with a boat back here. Like that stuff kind of looks like it's just thrown in. So I would maybe work on like blending that into the background. Like this seagull should probably be a little bit like pinker and bluey maybe. Same with this one and then the boat as well. And just working on, I might have the boat a little bit lower, kind of like cut off a little bit higher and sitting underwater a little more, or just something to make it look more realistic. But so thank you, Cooper, for sending all that in again, and hope to hear from you more. So next up we have Duck. That's it, just Duck. Designs by Duck is the name of the game. So for Duck, this is an interesting graphic. I'm not really sure like the whole concept or point, but Connecticut's very own. So here's the thing. So I don't know who this is. I think this says Connecticut's very own. That's kind of hard to read. Looks like Yukon Huskies. This must be the area code or something. I don't know. So I would probably make this logo full opacity, move it like down here in the corner or up here in the corner or something like that. It's like 3/4 of the way on or something, which is a little bit weird. If you're gonna do something like this, I would make it a lot bigger. But yeah, for this, I would make it smaller, full opacity, and just like stick it down here in the corner or something. I would maybe just add a little more context to like what you're trying to say, because this, I don't even see a name for this guy. So maybe adding his name on here somewhere. I would probably use a drop shadow for this guy because it looks like you kind of painted it in, but it just stops right here. So I'd probably just put a drop shadow. If you double click the layer, click drop shadow. You can put it on him, this guy, and this guy, because it kind of looks like there's like random shadows like painted in every once in a while. And then like this circle, I'm not really sure what that's doing, and like the arrows just kind of pointing to the player, which we already see. So I don't think you necessarily need those. Maybe the 860, that could work where it is. I would mess around with like these other pieces and kind of moving them around. This piece I like. It's used fairly well, but could be used a little bit better. And then I think changing the cutout sizes is going to help you a lot. So I would probably like make this guy a lot bigger, maybe cut him off like somewhere around the waist, and make this guy the second biggest maybe, and then this guy. I know they're all the same guy, but just the cutouts. Make this one like the smallest, or this guy the smallest, one of the other, and just contrast the size of the cutouts, because right now there's just kind of nothing that's like taking your eye from one place to another. Like I don't know where to look, and I don't really know why I'm looking there. So work on drawing the viewer's eye from one place to another for a reason. That's what I would say for the critique for this, but pretty cool little graphic, fairly simple. Yeah, I would just kind of try to declutter it, and then look at like some compositional things and try and work on that. So thank you, Designs by Duck, for sending that in. Keep grinding. Looks like on your page here you have a graphic with a field goal post on fire similar to one I've made. You can let me know in the comments if that was inspired by one of my videos, or if you just came up with that completely on your own. So for Jaron Nathan, thank you for sending in these graphics. The first one we have is a game day graphic. I would say overall the composition's pretty good. I would maybe move up this guy so his feet are like here. Make him a little bit smaller. Put a drop shadow on him or something to separate him from this text in the background. And then you have what looks like a glow on this side and a glow on this side. I would maybe use a brush, like a linear dodge add brush or something, like an inner shadow on these guys, and even maybe on the coach. That's that same red glow. And so it looks like it's glowing onto them. So you have kind of like that glow already set up. I would maybe like paint that onto them. Overall, looks pretty good compositionally. I'm liking it. So this is a cool graphic. This one stuck out to me immediately. Super cool. So I like what you did with the background. Cool photo, put him on there. Got the feet shadow to kind of blend him in. He maybe could be blended in a little bit more with the background. So like him right here and this stuff, I contrast pretty hard with the background. So I don't know necessarily how I would handle that, but maybe blending this cutout in with the background a little bit more, just with like the colors and shading and stuff. And you know, I don't know. At the end of the day, maybe this one too. But it's not bad as is, because this is like, the background kind of has a more hazy look, but that's usually how the background is in like a composite. So it kind of works here. I really like the Army text with his name, Javante Tank Davis, or I guess it's like a nickname, but pretty cool. Love this photo. His hair cut out looks really good, so good job with that. Overall, pretty sick. There's not too much I would do besides just kind of like continue messing with like lighting and shading and blending and that sort of thing, but I think this is a pretty sick graphic overall. So good job with that. Love seeing stuff like this. Super unique. So thanks for sending that in. JT Bridges. So we're finally getting to a JT Bridges graphic, because he sent me some stuff a while back and I was supposed to critique it, but I never did on the last video. So that's on me. Okay. So this is a pretty cool graphic. It looks like one of your like usual commitment edits that you see online. So I would say like first of all, there's a lot going on. So I probably would not have so much going on. Definitely a little bit too much. So like, you know, if I was just gonna mess with this graphic right now and kind of get it where I wanted it, I would remove this photo of the buffalo. So I'd have just a cutout and then this text down here, which can work. I think that could be a little bit cleaner. Not sure how. Maybe making it like 3D text, because it's got like a 3D texture on it, but the text itself is not like that beveled 3D text. So I'd probably make it like beveled or something, or put it in like a 3D program and make it in there. And maybe move it up a little bit, and probably have this the same size, and change the size of the Wii to like a little bit smaller. So I'd move all that up. So I'm not sure what all the jersey was like supposed to look like, but I would maybe have just the lightning like outside of the jersey, kind of like what you did here with this. So I'd maybe have like the lightning coming from behind the text and in front of him, but not necessarily like a part of his jersey. So like it looks like it's like a part of him right now, which is cool, but I think it'd be more ideal if it was like outside of the jersey, kind of like it is back here. I like this texture you put on there. That looks pretty cool. I like this background photo of the mountains. And like if you just had the buffalo and the mountains, if that's one photo, that works. But yeah, I think you could do like without this, and this. If anything, I would just put like QB1 or something. I don't know if this is, I'd probably put the name of this player somewhere. Yeah, overall, definitely some cool like textures and things you're doing here. So on to this one. This one's pretty clean. Yeah, I think there's a little bit too much like stuff on here again in some places. Like I think you could have this guy be a little bit bigger and like come up to like here, basically taking up this whole right side of the screen. Then having like his name over here. I don't think you need all this stuff. Like if you could remove this or any of this, like I would remove that and maybe just have like his name and then like the best overall individual score like you have here. And then probably remove what like this back here in the background. There's just a lot going on. And this kind of looks like there's just like a trail of things happening all the way down the screen. So again, just trying to like take the viewer's eye across the graphic is like the goal. So first thing you're gonna look at is this big cutout. So I'd have that on the right side. Then probably go towards best individual score, read that, and then kind of like see his other cutout and be done. But yeah, so just work on like decluttering and just making things a little bit cleaner. But that looks pretty good. Thank you, JT, for sending that in. So now we have Riley Sports 1. So this is the first one he put in. So I'm gonna try to go quicker because we don't have much time. I had to switch one of my camera batteries out. But yeah, so I think whatever happening behind him, like this glow thing, you don't need. Kind of just looks weird and funky, and I feel like the rest of the graphic has like a flat no glow look that you should stick with. Game day I think should just be one. Like I like the effect you have here, but there's just a lot going on with the background and then game day. So I'd either blur the background, put a Gaussian blur on it so there's no details, or make this text just completely white and then maybe keep the stroke, but maybe take it away. You don't necessarily need it. And then the logos kind of work. I'd probably move them down here and just have them be by themselves. And whatever is happening behind them, probably take that away as well. And maybe just add like a white stroke if you need to. For this one, the cutout looks pretty low quality. This like piece of his shoe right here has something funky going on, and the bottom of this shoe isn't even there, so maybe work on that. His leg is all deformed and cut up, so definitely work on like the cutout process. I do that in a lot of my videos, so you can figure that out. I like what you did here with like the textures and like pieces. Looks pretty good, very simple. I think the shading as well you could work on, like putting an ellipse under one foot and an ellipse under the other foot, and then like a softer, broader ellipse under him could have worked. And then honestly, you don't even really need this like McDonald's stamp back here. Or if you are gonna put it, I'd make it like big and super faded, like however faded this is, but a little bit more, and make the whole thing that way, and just kind of like put that up in this just kind of top right corner. But overall, pretty clean look. So I like how like clean it is. You don't have a lot going on around here, which is good in a lot of ways. So next up, we have another basketball graphic, and so I'd say for this, I would probably either take this out or make it more pronounced. Right now, it's just kind of like in the background, hard to read. So make that a little bit more pronounced. I would say fix his drop shadow to where it's not just one kind of big blur behind him. So either make it sharp or kind of in one direction, like the light is hitting him from a certain direction, so the shadow is going to be on the other side. I would maybe just change this text to white and remove this drop shadow, because that just kind of makes it look not clean, I guess. This down here, I might move up here so you can kind of read the whole thing. Because like when I look at this graphic, I don't even really want to read this stuff just because it's so in the background and kind of just like hard to read because it's behind his shadow there and it's like low opacity. But yeah, then I'd probably make him a little bit bigger, move this 30 for 30 up as well. So for this, I would maybe blur the background, probably take out this logo outline. You don't need that. Make this text white and remove the drop shadow. Then make this text a little bit smaller so it doesn't go off the page or like barely touch the edge of the page. And then kind of just make sure it's centered. I would start with that and then just kind of work with like decluttering and blending it well. So Thank you, Riley Sports, for sending that in. Riley Sports 1 for sending that in. So this is Kenneth Adams Jr. He sent me this, and this is a pretty cool graphic. Kind of looks like they're like coming out of the computer screen. Just because of like the style of this graphic, I don't think there's too much I would change. There's different things you could do to it to like make it look, give it a little bit more depth and that sort of thing. So I think like right here, this is a problem because his back foot is behind this foot. So this leg should be outside of the screen. And this leg should be inside the screen, like you have here. This leg is behind the screen. This leg's coming outside of the screen. I like this. This guy's like totally in the screen, but then his head's out, so that works. I would maybe move him up a little bit so his helmet is not like right in line with this, like bump it out. Again, just separate like the cutouts and make it to where they are different sizes, because they're all kind of like clumped together and all like a similar size right now. So I'd maybe use some shading and then bump up or just like change the sizes of each of the cutouts to kind of separate them from each other. Everything else looks pretty good. Fairly clean graphic. So I like the creative idea. Thank you, Kenneth Adams Jr. for sending that in. Now we have Sam Gray. Pretty nice, clean graphic, dude. This is good stuff right here. This looks like something you would see. This looks like something I would see on my Twitter feed, which is a good sign because I see a lot of good stuff from the college creative squad on Twitter. So looks good. I like the colors, like the little effect you did on the outside of him and the glow. I think that works. You could maybe make this cutout a little bit smaller, but you know, it's not. I think it works the way it is, and maybe separate them with like some shading, even though you don't need to. I like this blurred logo up front. You know, even the text works back here in the corner. So I think you have a lot of good effects, pretty clean graphic, and not too much to complain about, because it's just my eye easily goes from one thing to the other, and I'm not sure what I'm fully reading. Darty and the something. So I'd maybe figure out how to make this where you can see the whole thing, like put the rest of it up here or something, because I don't know what this is. Darty and the something, and I'm assuming you're talking about this guy, Jackson Dart. So that's the only thing I might fix, is like giving a little bit more context to what this is saying and what this is saying. But other than that, looks good. I like it. Thank you for sending that in. Maybe like comment on this video and tell me. I'll be making other critique videos, so also send me stuff and comment on my videos to tell me you want to be critiqued. And depending on like if I get more and more people sending in more and more graphics to be critiqued, we might have to put it on Patreon, or put half of them on Patreon or something like that, so that, you know, I can pay a little bit more attention to that and not be spending a ton of time, or not spend a lot of time critiquing everyone and their brother and mother and cousin and lover. So thank you for watching, and I hope you learned something from this. Follow me on social media, and if you would like to help me out and subscribe to my Patreon, you can get some PSDs of mine, and probably in the future critiques, and then access to a Discord channel where I'll be kind of talking with you guys and critiquing your stuff, and maybe posting some of my stuff in there so y'all can critique me. Yeah, thanks for watching. Again, take this all with a grain of salt. It's just my opinion. I'm just one designer. I don't know it all. Give me a thumbs up and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.